Perfect. Hello and welcome to the week 4 episode of For the Love of Cooking with Chef Laura Strath, presented by the town of Oakville. Um, this week, we have a very special activity planned, which I'm personally excited for. Before we begin, I just want to give some reminders to anyone who is joining us for the first time. So this is a live public broadcast Zoom meeting. So basically anyone can come from any place, and we often encourage folks when they're here to try to really prepare themselves for participation. One thing I just want to throw out there for those guests who are joining us, this month is Black History Month, and we are working really hard in Halton to ensure that we are following through with inclusion initiatives in the community. So my call to action for today is to encourage folks to check out the Halton Equity and Diversity Roundtables, new Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Charter. You can sign onto it as a resident, or if you work with an employer, and you can make a commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion today. And then the Halton Equity and Diversity Roundtable can sort of help you through those next steps towards being a more inclusive workspace or community. For instructions for this class, as always, feel free to use the chat box function, raise your hand, not your real hand, just your virtual hand. Also, you can private message myself. I'm Daniel, I work for the town. I will be moderating today's class. We ask that everyone keep themselves on mute, just so we don't have a lot of background interference. Finally, of course, respect one another and each other's perspectives. People can come in from any place. And we're also recording. So when I speak about respect, before I hand things over to you, Chef Laura, we are going to be speaking about a contentious topic tonight: Super Bowl contenders. I'm very glad that tonight we get to speak about my love for food and my love for NFL football, and this Sunday's game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to honor this great international day of celebration, we are going to be making foods from both native lands of Kansas City and Tampa Bay. And with that, I turn it over to you, and you can walk us through what we're doing today.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm excited to share in your excitement for Super Bowl. So we came up with two different things. We're going to see what we have time for, but we are going to focus on making some B-Rocks. And that is, if you Google Super Bowl traditional foods for Kansas City, that is near the top of the list. So this is what we are going to tackle today. Did you like that? Did you like that, Daniel?
Yeah, so if anyone hasn't heard of the foods we're making, I did my homework. So I actually looked into local papers in both Kansas City and Tampa Bay and tried to find like the must-have Super Bowl snacks. And these were two of the more common ones that were just distinct to those cities. So it's not just like chicken wings, nacho dip, that's for everyone. These were two specific to the two cities that are playing.
Yes, so if we do have time, we will be using something that looks like this. This is called a yucca, not to be confused with a yucca, which is a plant for ornamental use. And we're going to make some fries, okay? But let's start with the B-Rocks first. So what we're going to do is we're going to start browning. If you've got ground beef that you're going to be using, you want to get that started first. Today we're going vegetarian, so we're using the veggie ground round in ours. So we're going to skip pre-cooking because really it just needs to be heated up. Okay, so if you are cooking with beef, you're going to want to put your ground beef into a pan and start browning. Sorry. If you are following along with me and going vegetarian, we're actually just going to heat up a little bit of olive oil in a pan on medium heat. And while that is warming up, then we are going to cut our onion, okay? So we are going to use about half a cup of onion. My onion's not that big, so I'm just going to put it all in. So some dicing. Remember that when you have your oil heated up enough, you'll hear that nice sizzle when you put in your onion. Okay, I'm just gonna do a rough. So if you are cooking your beef, that's great. So once you have your beef cooked out, then you're going to drain it and have it just on the side for right now. And then you're going to start browning your onions. Okay, so I'm going to put my onions in. Nice sizzle. So this is kind of like a beef and cabbage pierogi. So we're just going to cook our onions till they start to be translucent. So I have a friend. She every time I smell cooking onions, she always her voice comes back to me because she used to tell me, she's like, you know, one of the things that somebody told me when I got married, when they did, you know, advice for the newlyweds, she said is if you haven't planned anything for dinner, start sauteing some onions because that means good things are about to happen. Okay, so while that's cooking out, we're just gonna do some rough chopping of some garlic. So if you have your cloves, if you use the flat part of your knife and press down, it actually flattens them out a little bit on your cutting board, okay, so that they're a little bit easier to chop. Okay, I'm gonna put that in with my onion. Okay, it smells so good.
So I guess I'm curious. We did some pretty deep researching, Chef, in order to find these items. Has anyone else, or does anyone else have anything else prepared that is a special Super Bowl tradition for them? We were gonna go with some of the traditional, you know, barbecue, buffalo cheese, or chicken wings, but we had to jazz it up. Feel free to let us know if you got something else that maybe we can promote or push through social media for folks to enjoy for the game as well.
How's everyone doing? Okay. So my onions are cooking up here. They're almost translucent. So I actually have already cut up my cabbage. So I've just chopped it into small pieces. I'll just chop a little bit more just so that you can see here. So basically I've just taken this little bit here and I just got some bite-sized pieces. Okay, so we need about roughly about 4 cups. Okay, so I'm going to put this in with my onions. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pepper. And a little bit of salt. Okay. So I would say about 1/4 of a teaspoon. So then we're just going to cook this on medium low. And I'm just going to cover with a lid here, okay? So basically we're just going to steam it a little bit just to cook out the cabbage. Okay. So once the cabbage is cooked a little bit, so it's not going to be totally cooked through where it's completely soft. We want it to be still have a little bit of crunch to it. give this a stir, make sure my onions aren't burning. It smells so good. All right, so in this recipe, I was just trying to find something that we could use. The one recipe that I did find actually called for a frozen dough. I looked in a few different grocery stores and I found this Pillsbury flaky dough roll. And I think that this actually will work quite well, especially we just don't have time to make a dough and do the filling in the 45 minutes. So we're just going to use the flake rolls. So bear with me because I'm new to this kind of product. All right, so let's see. Whew. All right. This is kind of interesting.
So if someone is watching this video, maybe before Sunday's game, you may find that these are a little bit difficult to find in the grocery store. I don't know if other people are making B-Rocks or what, but there's other of these Pillsbury products, which is like pre-prepared dough. I know there was like commonly like wiener rolls and things like that that you can also use. Because I found the flaky rolls really difficult to find. Emily, I see your pick, 28-21 Buccaneers. That's probably the under at 49 points. Okay.
My husband took over the chat there for a second.
Did he? Okay. Yeah. So I would assume that's the under on points. I'd probably take I think it's like 55 points or something. I'd probably take the over. I like both. There's too much big play talent, but I like a close game. That'd be nice.
Is it usually a close game, Daniel?
Like the Super Bowl traditionally?
Yeah.
The last few years, I'm just trying to think if they've been, it's a good question. I'm trying to think if there's really any consistency. It's tough to say. I would say typically the conference championship games are much closer because those teams are more familiar with each other. When you get to the Super Bowl, it's the best team from the AFC and the best team from the NFC. So typically, like the matchups are, yeah, you'll tend to see closer games in the division game and the conference finals. But the nice thing about the Super Bowl is it's teams that don't really see each other a lot, so anything can happen.
Okay.
Because you might think,
really,
yeah.
Anybody's game until near the end?
I mean, that's what everyone hopes for as football fans. I think with Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, I'm hoping they both have great games because they're probably the two greatest quarterbacks. I mean, we'll see at the end of Patrick Mahomes' career, but it's possible that we might see the two greatest quarterbacks of all time playing against each other. So if they're both playing well, it'll be close and it'll be fun.
Nice. Okay. So my cabbage is nice and softened. So I'm going to add the veggie ground round, or this is where you would introduce your ground beef. This is the yeast veggie ground round. There's lots of different options that you can buy nowadays.
So as you're chopping that up, Laura, there's lots of conversation in the chat that I'm getting from people about cassava or yucca.
Yeah.
So I know that it strikes some intrigue at the beginning. So, so some folks were able to, looks like we're able to find it even at Food Basics. So I know I had wrote in the chat that, yeah, so it's a Latin American root that it's common, obviously Tampa Bay because of its Cuban roots, that it replaced like fries in terms of street foods. And it looks like Vanessa's wrote as well to me that, well, it's delicious, which is great, but you can find it frozen in Portuguese stores and bakeries. That's kind of cool. I hadn't really seen that.
That's great. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
So to our mix, we're just gonna add a little bit of sugar and a little bit of vinegar. So I'm just gonna use the cap for about half of a teaspoon. And I'm just using an apple cider vinegar, but you can use a white vinegar or a rice vinegar, whatever you have on hand. And then we are done with our mix. Ideally, it would be nice to have your mixture cooled down a little bit before putting it on your dough. So what I'm going to do, just because we're going to speed things up a little bit, I'm just going to move some of this into the bowl here just to cool it down a little bit. Okay, perfect. All right, let me clear some space and then we're going to start rolling. Okay. So again, you could find recipes for this dough online, but just for today, because we don't have that much time, we're gonna cheat a little bit. So I'm just gonna put these down, and I'm just gonna do a gentle press out with my fingers, and then I'm just going to, just like you would a pizza dough, I'm just going to pull the dough into like a larger disc so that we can put our filling in. Okay.
So I can give some context to how B-Rocks came to be, you know, a big Kansas City favorite. So there's a large settlement. Well, this is what I read. I don't know this firsthand, but a large settlement of German immigrants came to Kansas City, and when they opened up their bakery shops and stuff, and they're establishing local businesses. For some reason, folks in Kansas City, they loved like handheld foods, like barbecue foods. So these B-Rocks became, you know, they were just small features of these bakeries, these German bakeries in Kansas City. And then all of a sudden, you know, that became the things that were selling, like these little mini pockets of deliciousness that they could take with them. That, like, now it's to the point, I guess, where, like, similar to, like, you could get a hot dog at, you know, Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, or that B-Rocks in Kansas City kind of became the quick, easy sort of street food. And it allowed also for, like, German immigrants to establish some local business. So that's how it kind of came to be.
That's great. But it would be handy to take and go.
Yeah, it's like a pizza pot.
Yeah, pizza pockets. Advanced. All right, we'll do a few here, and then I'll show you how to finalize. There's a couple different ways that I saw that you could finalize these if you wanted to be decorative, or I just kind of made mine where I put the filling on and then I pinched the top like a roll. Okay, there we go. Then I'm going to also top with a little bit of cheese. I just have a mixed blend here, but you can use whatever you've got. Smoked Gouda would be really nice on this too, if you wanted to be adventurous.
I'm sure the German immigrant settlers really had the smoked Gouda.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've just got a parchment lined sheet here. Okay, so I'm just going to use about, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon and a half of filling. And we're going to add a spoonful of cheese here. And then I'm just going to bring up the edges here. And I'm gonna kind of do like a pinch. Everybody see? So we're just making like a little pocket. So I saw people baking them down like this, or I saw people twisting and then putting in toothpicks. We could try a couple of different ways. I'm gonna just put mine down like that. Okay, let's try a few more here, and then we'll get them in the oven. So these go into a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes or so.
Looks very cool. Thank you to Chef Laura for being so open to take an exploration in recipes. Traditionally, the recipes that Chef Laura walks us through each week are something that she's proficient and expertise in. So I appreciate you coming out of your comfort zone with my weird idea.
I love it. I like the challenge, Daniel.
Oh, now while we're speaking about challenges and filling these, maybe we can let folks in on what we're planning for next week.
Yes, next week is Valentine's Day weekend, and it also coincides with Chinese New Year. So I think what we're going to do, well, not I think, what we are going to do is we are going to make some fortune cookies.
Chinese fortune cookies.
Yeah, so get your messages written up and then we can put them in, you can put them in your cookie.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Chef. I guess people can add the messages after they don't need to have their messages prepared for next week.
It's easier to put them in while you're rolling, but
Okay.
you can definitely try and fold strategically. Let's see, we'll do a few more here and then we'll get these in the oven and then we'll start on the fries.
Cool. So I will purposely make sure my wife doesn't tune in next week, so she thinks that I've made fortune cookies from scratch. Chef, do you know how to make smash hearts?
Make what, sorry?
Smash hearts?
Oh, out of chocolate?
I have no idea. It's a question. Question from the chat.
Is it a chocolate, like a big chocolate mold and you smash it with a little hammer and you've got little goodies inside? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. It's just actually very similar to the hot chocolate bombs, except a bigger mold. Usually it's a silicone mold or like a hard plastic acrylic mold that you would buy. Yeah, they're hot thing right now.
But it would be the same type of instruction as our hot chocolate balls?
The hot chocolate bombs, yes.
Yeah, bombs.
So except you don't put the bottom together. So basically what you can do is you do the top and then you can either leave it just hollow with no bottom, or you can spread chocolate on a piece of parchment paper and then you can put the shape, like once you kind of fill it with whatever you're putting in there, you can put the sheet of parchment paper on and then invert it and let it dry. Like, well, after it dries, you invert it back to like trim the excess chocolate off the bottom. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm lost people there.
It does to me. That was a very visual instruction. Appreciate it.
That's good. Just when you make it next weekend, I don't want you to be confused.
Yeah.
So I'm just melting a little bit of butter here, and we're going to just brush it on top of our bee rocks. Okay, so we're just going to push a little bit of butter on here. My kids were very excited when I trialed this at home until they found out it had cabbage in it. Okay, so then this would be ready for the oven, okay? And even if you wanted to, at this stage, if you're thinking, I'm gonna make these in advance, so Sunday I can just relax and enjoy, you can put them in the freezer like this, and then from frozen, just put them on a tray, let them come to room temperature, or not room temperature, a little bit before like it becomes soft, and then just, again, fire it right into the oven at 350. Okay. Okay, let me just clean up here, and then I'm going to show you these fries.
So chef, if someone made them, say tonight, would they be okay to eat on Sunday? Or if people are planning on eating them on Sunday, should they stop and freeze or refrigerate?
I would just prepare them like to the point of right now, and
Okay.
then individual quick freeze, and then you can bake them the day of.
Okay. It's good to know.
Okay, so I'm just going to clean off my station here, and I will work on some fries. Clean up here.
Sorry, chef, if if folks are looking to prepare them today, how long were those going into the oven at 350 for?
About 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay,
Just depends on your oven.
sure.
Okay, so again, wet cloth down underneath your cutting board. So these look a little bit intimidating, but they're not. It's a little bit tough to cut. It kind of reminds me almost of cutting an acorn squash. You can see that the flesh almost looks like a cross between a parsnip and a yam. And then I'm just going to take my peeler. So it's just covered in a waxy coat, just to help with spoilage. I'm just going to peel this. I've never made anything with these until today, actually, as a matter of fact.
No?
Oh, I've always wondered.
In some cultures, it's a huge part of, like, a huge staple of their diet, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it definitely has a long shelf life.
Yeah. There's so many ways to prepare it. Like, I mean, I'm sure we'll see from doing the yuca fritas, but it's a pretty resilient root. Like, it can really be anything.
So I'm just going to cut these so that they're into some right-sized pieces. Watch your fingers, everybody. I've got an interesting texture too. It's hard, but it also flakes. So I'm just going to cut mine into what would be a good fry size. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bring some water to a boil with a little bit of salt. And we're going to par cook these for about 10 minutes. Okay. So I already took the liberty to do so. I'm just going to cut this one off.
So some people may find that you'll see things like yuca fritas also in Mexican restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I find that it's entering into the, I noticed it, like we were speaking about the mule in Hamilton, like they do
Yes.
yuca fritas, and commonly I think that it's becoming like a trendy item. I mentioned when I was traveling in Cameroon years ago, like this would be a big roadside food fair. So you would get like boiled cassava off the side of the road, and that was, you know, something that would be like a mainstay everywhere you went. You could always get some cassava. and it would
Did
be
they-
wrapped, it'd be often wrapped in its own leaf.
And did they season it with anything, Daniel?
It depends how much you paid.
Oh, I see.
You could add things like boiled huckleberry or Maggi seasoning. Just depends on what you're interested in. But it didn't. The yuca fritas I've had here in Canada have been much more delicious than the roadside cassava in Cameroon, for sure.
I can see that would probably be the case.
Yes.
Okay, so when you have yours parboiled, they should be, you should be able to pierce them with a fork and they'll be tender. Okay, so this is, but still hold their shape. Okay, I don't know, can everybody see how that looks? Okay, so I did just boil some. Let me just take out some of my water here.
I'm curious if anyone else is making the bee rocks at home. I see, Emily, I see you're cooking. Are you making bee rocks? How's it going? Let's see. If anyone else can show their little cabbage balls, be curious to see what they look like.
And the recipe makes quite a few too, so you might have leftovers. I actually, the recipe that's on there, I cut in half because when I did it, it made so much. So I actually ended up putting some of my mixture on nachos one night, and then I made a pot pie with the leftovers, and I added some other vegetables, some celery, some mushrooms, some carrots, and a little bit of vegetable stock.
Emily, are yours in the stove? Let's see them. Oh, they are. Oh, nice.
Awesome.
You got to bring it lower. There we, oh, cool.
Nice.
Nice job.
Looking good. Did you use beef, Emily?
I think I saw thumbs up. Did you use beef, Emily?
Yes, I was thinking about the veggie ground and then my family outvoted me.
Yeah.
They wanted the beef, so I went with beef, and then I also had trouble finding the biscuits, so I'm
Yeah.
actually using the croissant dough. I'll let you know how that works out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I don't know, they're okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm
It
sure
was.
it'll be delicious.
They will be. They're really good. Okay, so with our fries here, I'm just going to drizzle with a little bit of olive oil. Okay. And then I'm going to season with some pepper and some salt. You can be liberal with your salt, okay? Even if you have kosher salt, that would probably be the best. A little over the sugar as well. All right, and then these will go into the oven about 425 degrees for about 15 minutes. Have an eye check and maybe just turn them over. But you'll want them to look nice and golden and crispy. Okay. All right, so I've got some things to show you. I did a few things in advance here just so that you could see what things look like when they come out of the oven. Okay. So I have my finished ones here, my finished bee rocks here. And then I also have the fries, just so that you guys can see what they look like. So it's nice, the fries are nice and crispy on the outside, but still nice and soft on the inside. Okay. And then I'll show you, I'll cut into one of these just so you can see what they're looking like. So it's got the filling and a little bit of excess dough here. Maybe we could figure out a way to not have that. but
Can you bring it closer up?
Oh,
Sorry. Towards, yeah, the your overhead camera. I know it's hard to.
Oh, sorry. So
You
there's
had
that.
it.
And then
There
I'll
you
bring,
go.
sorry,
Are you doing an
It's
SMS
a
script
delay.
right now?
so you can see it's nice and crispy, but still soft on the inside.
Cool. So the one thing we didn't show today, Chef, is because I know we were worried about going over time, is yuca fritas, from what I could find, are traditionally served with mojo. So it's like yuca fritas and mojo. So mojo is basically, it's like mojo mayonnaise. So it's like jalapeno ends, cilantro, mayonnaise, and lemon. So that's basically like the dip. It's like, yeah, like pepper. Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I wish we had more time to do that.
That's okay. I mean, I think that it's the name is memorable enough that if folks are wanting to search Mojo at home.
I wonder if Austin Powers would come up.
Shayna, no, the yuca fries recipe I don't believe is on the website. It wasn't really a recipe as much as it was just an instruction in terms of how to prepare the cassava. So no, we didn't put the recipe on the website, which we can certainly do if there's an interest in that. Chef, is that something we can easily create, I guess?
Absolutely. Yep. We can get it up there this week for sure.
Cool. Yeah, we'll put that up. Well, I don't do the web updates, but I send them in. So hopefully tomorrow, if someone responds to my emails.
Yeah, no problem. Now, did anybody else have have any questions about anything that we've done here?
Yeah, feel free, folks. Unmute yourself if you want, or you can write in the chat if there's any questions, because I think we have pretty much shared everything we wanted to about bee rocks and yuca fritas.
They look delicious, actually.
There was only one score. That was a 7-point spread for Kansas City. I was kind of hoping there would be a little bit more sport action on here, but that's all good. I'd say 7 points is probably that's probably the betting line. So I'd take Kansas City by 7 points.
I have
No, Chef?
no idea.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions. Emily's shrugging her shoulders, so I think maybe we'll stick with food here. So I really hope everyone enjoys their bee rocks and yuca fritas. And Chef, thank you so much for kind of getting out of your comfort zone and putting up with me talking about football for the last 2 weeks. We hope to see you all next week for a very family-friendly, romantic programming as we make. What are we making again?
You're
Cookies.
Cookies.
Thank
Yes,
you.
they are. Yes, we'll be doing just a few at a time because they're a little bit time sensitive.
Excellent.
But it's a great recipe.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, and enjoy the big game.
Thanks so much for coming, everyone.
Bye, friends.